Carolina Gamecocks. Oh, whoa.
The
Carmela
Gamecocks.
Cardoza balling out. Raven Johnson shutting down Caitlin Clark with the steals. I mean, this was amazing. Undefeated South Carolina Gamecocks. They won it. I mean, I
Is
really
there are two championships in 3 years, and like in those 3 years, the only game they lost was what, like in the Final Four to Iowa, or let me know if it was in the Final Four or around earlier.
true.
But yeah, they lost. Still, the only game they lost was in the March Madness of last year. So they got, god dang, did like what, almost like 3 years with losing like less than 5 games
True, and I
and
mean,
won two championships.
yep, and the South Carolina is deep. I mean, they got a whole bunch of people who are watching them. Every time you turn around, as soon as Caitlin Clark or anybody on the Caitlin team made a three, they had a three to match you with. And on top of that, Carmela dropped 15 and 17 rebounds.
Cardoza.
She was getting everything, and I knew that was going to be a problem for Iowa because when they played LSU before Angel Reese tweaked her ankle, I mean Angel Reese is killing them on the board. So I mean you
She
can't
was playing a good game, and yeah, until she got injured. But she's only 6'3", and Cardoza's 6'7".
exactly, and you can't win without getting rebounds and something they did. And it looks like this game was completely different
Oh,
from
and
it.
Pow Pow was stepping up.
Pow
Pow
stepped
Pow
up.
was stepping up, hitting them threes. She went 3 or 4 from 3-pointer.
Yep, true.
She was a sharpshooter. And yeah, I mean, look, you look even at their bench. Johnson had 19 off the bench. 6, 9, and 3. Those are big numbers off the bench for college, and that's crazy. Their leading scorer actually came from the bench, and that was Johnson.
Exactly. I mean, they always dedicated. The game strategy was we gonna let everybody else beat up but Caitlin Clark, and usually, I mean, Caitlin Clark does carry him, and the team has been stepping up during this whole March Madness situation. But in this game, they ain't step up. I mean, they couldn't do it. They couldn't get to the basket. I mean, the first quarter they was up by 18 points, but I mean, as soon as the second quarter started, it was like 7 minutes left in the second quarter. It was a wrap. Iowa had no chance in hell of catching up.
Yeah, they just seemed like outclassed when it came to athleticism. That they were a way smaller team, and it showed definitely the whole game. You thought that they would be good, but they weren't able to handle it. And it's like I'm speaking about UConn, and UConn's last game. I'm gonna see not UConn. Iowa's last game against UConn. They looked like that they were gonna lose, and there was a controversial call at the end of the game. And a lot of people thought that offensive foul screen wasn't even an offensive foul, but you got to sometimes play through that. But it looks like the basketball gods at the end of the day still didn't let Caitlin Clark win a championship. For all the hype that she had over college and breaking all the records and getting all the commercials and getting all the NIL deals. At the end of the day, she didn't get a championship or a national championship. So she's basically like the Iverson of women's college basketball.
But still great. I mean, still one of the greatest.
Yeah, great. Made an impact on the game, but you weren't a winner. She needed to work on her dribbling skills.
Yeah, she was real trash on the dribbling skills. But we got Don State out here celebrating. Can't win with party time, party SC. But I mean, I can't wait till next year to see what happens. I mean, the views was crazy, 18.7 views. I mean, most watched women's college basketball game since '92. And like I said, Raven had Caitlin clamp down. I mean, the defense from this game, LSU game, was completely different than Caitlin Clark. And I mean, I can't wait to see it in the WNBA.
Yeah, there's a lot of good players going into the WNBA next year, so hopefully that'll be able to infuse the WNBA and get more tickets and more sales. And, Raven Johnson, a lot of people always want to talk about Caitlin Clark or other players and their journey. Raven Johnson was a player last year that Caitlin Clark refused to guard and even pushed her hand at her because she's like, she can't shoot. And basically, I'm just going to hang out in the paint and you can shoot a three if you want because I know you can't make it. So she went from being embarrassed to getting Caitlin back and embarrassing her back and making Caitlin get like 30 points on like 30 shots, which is terrible. And I think she was like 2-11 when Johnson was guarding her. So
Yep.
Johnson really,
Showed
locked
up.
her down, showed up, and she had like 4 steals that were all on Caitlin Clark. So, I always said Caitlin Clark's a great shooter, and she's not the strongest dribbler, and that team should attack that. And it looks like that's exactly what Raven did, and she ended up getting 4 steals, getting cookies on Caitlin Clark all day. So
True, but shout out to the women's college basketball. I don't
super
know.
entertaining.
I don't know when this is gonna happen again. I mean, I've never known where so many people were so caught up to women's basketball. Hopefully, it just pours over to the WNBA. They need to get more views, but it's crazy how the men are supporting more than the women once again.
What, the men are supporting the women's basketball?
Yeah,
You know, what did they show that more men are what? Well, I guess men are main sports viewers.
pretty much.
So yeah, I think there's just a lot of storylines. Like
True.
you got Iowa going back against LSU, and getting their revenge after losing to them in the national championship, and then you got Paige Buckets and UConn, having a bunch of injuries, but her still coming back from injury herself and getting her team back into the Final Four. And you got, is Caitlin going to finally put the ribbon on her career and win her national championship?
Nope.
And then you got the girl Raven that was waved off the year before, making the difference and shutting down Caitlin Clark. And South Carolina and their size and depth really just disrupting Iowa because, that Martin and there was one other girl in Iowa that was decent, but most of them were not on that level. So if you could kind of let Caitlin do what she does or make it hard on her, and lock up everyone else, and you're going to be able to stop them, and that's what South Carolina was able to do.
Do you think she's going number one draft pick?
Yeah, they think she's going to the Indiana Fever because the ticket sales for the Indiana Fevers, they're already been selling way more tickets because they're more than certain that she's going to be the number one pick. A team can go a different direction, but I think if you got the number one pick, you're definitely choosing Caitlin Clark because you just know how much money she's going to bring to your franchise by ticket sales, memorabilia sales, and all that stuff.
True. Comment down below how you feel about the women's college basketball this year. Is it on the up and up? Did you watch it? Were you in tune? Did you stay tuned? Do you think they're gonna do it again next year? I mean, there's still some names in there. Flu Johnson, Carmelo Cardozo's not gonna be there anymore. Caitlin Clark's not gonna be there. Angel Reese isn't gonna be there, but it's still a couple more people. Paige.
I think Paige is gonna be back.
Paige is gonna be back also. That's another one. But moving on to the men's division, man. It was Purdue versus UConn. UConn pulled it out. It looks like here, man, my dog Eddie couldn't hold it up, man. Eddie couldn't hold it up, man. I seen him against NC State. He was balling. As soon as he touched the ball, skyhook, buckets every day. But it looks like this time against Connecticut, I mean, they had his left side on guard, so he couldn't do the hook this time at all. So this game was completely different. It looked like here if the center for Purdue wasn't making the baskets, making the points, then it was just trash because nobody else on the team looked like they can score.
Yeah, the Eddie had 37 and 10, went 15 to 25, took 25 shots, and I mean the next best guy on his team. There's a whole bunch of zeros, and then there's a guy with 12 points and a guy with 5 points, and everyone else had less than that. So he basically tried to do it by himself. He had 37 and 10 and 2 blocks, but was still a negative 10 plus and minus. So, it's pretty crazy that, he tried to do it on his own and take advantage. And at the end of the day, he still wasn't enough by himself. If he could have maybe got a little bit of help, they could have had a better chance. Purdue losing 60 to 75, but UConn seemed too deep and too organized. You had Newton score 20 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists. You had Spencer score 11 and 8, Castle 15 and 5, and Klingen had 11 and 5. And then off the bench they had Diarra with 9 and Johnson with 4. So a lot more team balanced scoring, especially when you have four guys in double figures for UConn. When in Purdue you only had 2 guys in double figures. And, even the Huskies, they had a couple guys with like 5, 9, and 4. So they even had a little bit more. But we'll be able to see. It's crazy how I definitely think that the women's game will outshine the men's game, and a lot of people say that they believe that this is the weakest men's draft class in like the last 20 years, but I do kind of understand why the women's game has taken over in college, because when you do look at college, it's in the men's, they're usually one and dones if they're good or have exceptional talent. They play the 1 year and then they're gone, poof. So there's not really a chance to build a team up from nothing or be like, oh, these guys played together for the past, 2, 3, 4 years. That doesn't really happen in the NBA. If they're the superstar, they go pro after 1 year. So it's, they're just a pit stop.
Uh-huh.
But when you look at the women's basketball, they're at least playing 3 years. And some are, a lot of girls are playing 4 years now because they're making more money with that NIL deal than they are with the WNBA. So, they're able to, build those team ups and like, oh, I've been watching this girl for 3 years.
True.
And you can be like, recognize the same faces. And I actually thought Angel Reese was going to come back for another year at LSU with how much she was celebrated. And I know she got a lot of criticism. I think she got a lot of unjust hate because she beat Clayton Clark. But
they all did.
She did get a lot of, people probably buying her stuff and checking her out. So, with the way that the WNBA is playing, I would have suggested her to stay in college another year. But, that's what she wants to do. She said, I already won a championship. I don't know if my team will get back here next year or get this far next year. I'd rather just go out now.
Yeah, I don't think Iowa's gonna make it next year either. But I mean, Purdue.
Yeah,
I don't think Purdue's gonna make it next year. Once this kid leaves, he's not.
Well, yeah, the rest of his teammates were bums.
Yeah, they're not. He's not. I mean, and then people are already talking about him, like Gilbert Arenas, saying he's good. He's a good big man, but I mean, he's too slow. Like we said earlier, like everybody in the NBA is switching. They're switching up. Like eventually, like you're gonna have to guard a Steph Curry or guard Shea Gilchrist Alexander, and you finna be on your butt, and you can't even shoot. Cause I mean,
that's like like Zubox. He's a good center. Some of these centers that are big boys, 7-footers, but they can only play in spurts because if they play them for too long, the other team basically sets it up to expose them or take advantage.
Especially in the playoffs.
Exactly. So, he might be a good backup, but I don't know if he'll ever be like a full starter in the pros just with his, because he's like a Wemby that can't move. So it's a little different.
Brook Lopez that can't move, can't shoot.
He was still in an era, though, where he could do that a little bit.
He couldn't dribble. He wasn't dribbling.
He didn't have to dribble.
You see, Wemby.
He had the ball in the post. Wemby's doing too much.
We'll be out here being like Kevin Durant. But comment down below how you feel about this men's college basketball